40 some, like 46. Oh,
Attention,
well, good.
armchair quarterbacks and shower thought GMs. It's time for this week's episode of SportsBall with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley.
Yeah, so I mean, either that's what I was owed, or that was just the sum of all of the sales, and in that case, I'll get back to you.
Well, I'm not really worried about it.
Well, good, because I wasn't either.
Good.
Well, good. I'm glad we got that sorted out. Welcome back to SportsBall, everybody, for episode 68. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by my co-host and a lightning hockey aficionado. It's Mike Maharrey. Mike,
I'm representing today.
You're
Because last episode I represented for the Rays, so This week I'm representing for the Lightning.
Who's the team that I said I like the most? The Eskimos or whatever. What was it?
The Angry Eskimos.
The Angry Eskimos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the East Coast Hockey League Jacksonville team.
Yeah.
Which who knows if they'll play this year or not.
That's a shame. They should at least it should be a relegation thing. They should play the Rays, and if they win, the Rays are down to East Coast Hockey League, and the Angry Eskimos are in the NHL. I don't see the problem with this.
Why not? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if the Rays lose that game, they don't belong in the NHL. I mean,
well, the Rays are a baseball team.
Well,
so
the Lightning. Well, the Rays don't belong in baseball either, because they just got beat by a Braves team that they not like 24 hours before had scored 14 runs on.
Yeah, but that's the weird thing about baseball. Like, every game's different, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, every game is different, but I'll remember that quote when they miss the playoffs, ergo missing your prediction of World Series.
Well, they're 4-2, so I think it's a pretty fair start. I'll tell you this: I've actually watched more baseball in the last week than I probably have in the last 20 years.
You know what? I can actually tell you the last game I watched was the final game of the Cubs series, when the Cubs finally broke the curse and won the World Series. And before that, when did the Braves win the World Series?
Gosh, that was 90s, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was like 10, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, I was a huge baseball fan when I was a kid. That was like Big Red Machine, man. And then I kind of fell away from it. I think with a lot of people when they had the whole canceled the World Series and all that labor strife that they had. But I guess just desperation for sports, man. I've watched, I think, parts of every Rays game so far, including yesterday's debacle.
Yeah, hold on. We'll get to debacles a little bit later in the show.
Of course we will.
But I want to start with a positive story.
Okay.
Because we don't do that super often.
I was going to say, where did you find that?
On any of the content that we do on any of the platforms we appear on, this doesn't happen very often.
Yes, so
now I want to show you a series of pictures, and I want you to tell me what happened to this guy. And the on a scale of 1 to 10, the chance that he would play professional football ever again. Okay. So this is picture 1.
No, that's not how your foot's supposed to go.
No, that's picture 2.
Oh.
And this is picture 3.
Like, what even is that?
He's more machine now than man. Twisted
it's
and
like,
evil.
It almost looks like he has an extra thigh below or right above his ankle.
So I was actually reading the article about this before we went on. So it's a spiral fracture that Alex Smith endured against the Texans last year that started at the base of his ankle and spiraled up to his knee. So he had like something or 7 or 8 breaks in a twisting motion all the way up his leg. That is 10 out of 10 yikes.
Yeah.
And so for one, he almost lost his leg. 2, he almost lost his life because he was septic. He developed an infection after the initial procedure, and they were not 100% sure what the actual infection, like infecting agent was, and how far it had spread. He was not completely out of the realm of dying at that point. He has been cleared for football contact heading into the 2020 season.
And if you had asked me, a few weeks ago, I would have laid odds that he would never play football again.
Yeah. Well, so from just to be clear, he is officially going to start the season on the physically unable to perform list. He's not actually. Everyone's hiding from the Rona right now, so he's not actually on the field with the team taking reps and that sort of thing. But he has been medically cleared, which is a big deal because if this were a regular year and we were heading into training camp, they would be seeing what he had. And I imagine it's still going to take quite a bit of rehabilitation and just workouts just to get back up, not to just physically being able to perform, but football shape. There's a big difference between can pass a physical and football shape. However, you don't wish that on anybody, but the Washington Redskins, obviously are a team that's got lots of problems.
Wait, the what?
Well, I know. Excuse me. The Washington Potomac Drainage Basin Indigenous Persons.
Right, otherwise known as the Washington football team.
They're a team that have lots of problems both in the front office and on the field. And furthermore, they absolutely didn't have anything reliable at the quarterback position last season. So they paid a buttload of money in free agency, brought in Case Keenum. I want to be fair to Case Keenum. He's kind of a fun player to watch. He had the one really great year in Minnesota, but Minnesota wasn't happy. That wasn't good enough for Minnesota. And so now Case Keenum is worse in Washington, and the Vikings are worse without Case Keenum. It's funny how that works out. Alex Smith could get his job back.
Yeah,
he could.
To me, think about the not just the physical recovery, but I don't know about you, but after that happened to my leg, I would have a hard time getting back on the football field.
Yeah, they talk a lot of times. I like to use NASCAR as an example. Combat sports is another one. NASCAR is an example that sometimes a generationally talented driver has a really bad crash and they're never as good again. And you're wondering, but he's losing races to guys that he beat every week before. How is he losing to people he's already beaten? And he's demonstrated to be objectively a more talented driver. It's in there.
Yeah.
That's what else can you say? And that's a shame, and it happens to fighters too. Now, fighters can take too much mileage and all of a sudden their chin is a little bit too easy to crack. That happens to everybody.
Sure.
But there's also fighters that they have a really catastrophic injury, maybe a knee, maybe a back, and they're just not able. Cain Velasquez is a perfect example. So UFC heavyweight Cain Velasquez, who his reign, albeit a very short one, people thought this is going to be the greatest heavyweight of all time because he's just great at everything. Knockout power, unbelievable motor. He can go 5 rounds at a high pace, which for those who are not really up on their combat sports, typically speaking, the heavier the weight class, the lower the stamina. Right. Flyweights throw 100 punches a round for 5 rounds and they're barely sweating. Heavyweights throw 15 punches and they're both doubling over, gasping for air. See, whichever one taps out first with a massive coronary loses. Cain Velasquez could go hard for 5 rounds, which is 5 rounds is your main event / championship rounds in the UFC. Back problems. He had the back problems, then he had the ACL issues. I think he's had something like 3 or 4 surgeries and had something like 2 fights over a 5-year span. So basically his career's over. Yeah. He didn't even take that much damage, but his career is over because when you're trying to take another 260-pound guy and throw him down on the mat and your back gives out, it's bad. It's bad news when that guy's allowed to punch you in the face.
Right. And even if you're physically completely healed, you're still thinking about it, and that impacts your performance.
Yeah.
When you can't focus 100% on what you're doing, and so much of it is muscle memory and just reaction. When you're thinking about something else, trying to do whatever it is you're doing, whether it's fighting or playing goalie or trying to catch a football or throw a football, it makes it really hard. You can't have 2 minds going on. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Speaking of what just doesn't work, I'm going to pull up a picture here, and I want you to describe for our audience what this is, because I had no idea what this was until you said, hey, go check this out, not 30 minutes ago. Is that a video game?
Right. It's NHL 2020.
It looks a lot like it.
It does. This is the look you're going to get watching the NHL playoffs. They've all of that is tarps, and then they've built these screens, and so they put different things on the screens. I'm pointing at them as if people could see, but like I was watching the Rangers and the Islanders play an exhibition game last night. So in those side screens, they actually had the logos of the teams. And at first, it really actually kind of bothered me. It's like, this is weird. But, it's like anything, you get used to it. But it's definitely the video game look. Totally different vibe than what you get in baseball, where you either get empty seats, or at the Braves stadiums, they've got those cutouts of, which was kind of funny. There was, I don't remember what stadium was, but there was a homer that basically ripped the head off of one of the cutouts, which I don't know, that amused me in my sick mind.
So... I'm glad you brought that up, the comparison to baseball. So let me ask you this quick question. I mean, I already have your answer, but which do you prefer? Do you prefer just genuinely empty stadium, but with the tarps, or do you prefer the cardboard cutouts of people behind the dugouts?
People are going to make fun of me for this, but I kind of like the cardboard cutouts. I don't know. I find them amusing.
Yes, you're right. I am going to make fun of you. I will. However, I will say, if I was a pitcher, and now granted, I know you get in trouble if you start throwing wild pitches, but I'd be really tempted to try to nail some of those.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, they get shipped a free baseball if they get tagged. So you're really doing them a favor.
Yeah, I know some of the teams are doing that. If you've bought, I mean, people are paying money to have those cutouts put in there. So. If you get tagged by a foul ball or a homer, then supposedly you get your ball sent to you. So
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah.
So
please.
So while we're talking about a weird mixture of hockey and baseball, I think it's time for your favorite segment.
Which one is that? I love them all.
It's the one that I'm hovering the mouse over, so I'm trying to give you the cue of what we're doing, because we totally rehearsed this before we go live. So it's this one right here that's highlighted.
Well, you know what I think it's time for?
What it's time for?
It's time for a puck to the head.
All right. We'll set the stage, because we actually have a video for this.
Yeah, and actually we could actually change this segment up, and it could be a baseball to the head, because that would work just as well. But what you are about to witness, ladies